Welcome to Non-Human Entities YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and share if you enjoy this show.
We are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and folks, we're going to get things rolling here and bring on our next guest. Next up is George Noory. He's the author. Well, he's an author, TV personality, and host of the nationally syndicated program Coast to Coast AM. And says if he weren't a national radio talk show host, he'd be in politics. Heard by millions of listeners, Coast to Coast AM airs on approximately 600 stations in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Guam. And he is so kind to take time out to be with us here tonight. So I do believe we have him on the line. George, is that you?
Michael, it is, and I'm glad to be on your program. Looking forward to this.
Well, thank you, George. It's great to have you back. The last time I had spoke with you, I think it was in 2010. I was with we spoke about the BP oil spill and what
That's right.
Yeah, what a disaster that was.
My gosh, 7 years gone by that fast already?
It has. It's flown by. So let me ask you, so would you really want to get in politics if you did not end up where you are now? I don't know. It's a little shaky.
You know, it was kind of interesting. I kind of threw that out when I was being interviewed some time ago, and I would have dabbled in it. It's intriguing to me to be able to do things to help people. I mean, I'm into this to help people, Michael. And I would have done that politically had I not gone down the path I'm in now. And, of course, I love the path I'm on. So we don't have to worry about me running for any office at this time.
I don't know if it'd be safe to run for any office these days. If they don't like you, they let you know, don't they?
Oh, they do. I tell you what, though, I would not be tweet happy, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. So George, you've done it all: books, radio, TV. Talk a little bit about when this journey started for you, and did you ever imagine it would go as well as it has?
When I was a little boy, Michael, I wanted to get into broadcasting, but I wanted to get into broadcasting to do unusual stories because thanks to my mom, I was into UFOs and ghosts and all these things, and I wanted to do that. So I started gearing myself up for that at a very young age. I went to the University of Detroit. My dad wanted me to become a dentist because all our family members, my cousins, they were all dentists and specialists. And he said, George, it's a great profession. I'm paying for most of your college. That's what I want you to do. And in those days, you know what? If your dad said jump, you jumped. And so I went into a pre-dental school, Michael, for a couple of years at the University of Detroit. But my love was always broadcasting. And I found out that they had a college television station, they had a little radio station, and then I had a couple friends who were in broadcasting curriculum at the school. And they said, you ought to switch your major. And I went down there and I talked to it was a Jesuit-run school, college, and the priest said, you'd love this, and you're a natural for this. So I switched my major. My dad got the report card about a month later, and he said, George, there's a mistake. And I said, what do you mean, Dad? He said, well, some guy is getting great grades in broadcasting, but I've got the wrong report card. And I said, no, Dad, I switched majors. He wouldn't talk to me, Michael, for 2 months. 2 months. So I stayed in it. I stayed in broadcasting. Then at the age of 19, while I was still going to school, a friend of mine was working at a television station, needed to go home for Christmas in Cleveland, and they wouldn't let him go unless he found somebody to back him up. He was just a production assistant. And he said, would you do this for me for a couple weeks? And I said, sure. So I worked at a TV station in Detroit at 19. And when he came back, everybody went to the news director and said, don't get rid of George. Keep them both. He's doing a great job. And that started my career at that age. And then at 21, I was a radio reporter. At 24, I was a television producer. At 28, I was a television executive news producer. Then I became a news director a year after that, and then went into public relations and owned some businesses. Missed broadcasting, and I was watching the television, the movie Talk Radio with Eric Bogosian, where he played the part of the actual Denver talk show host Alan Berg, who was killed by some neo-Nazis. And I said, you know what? I want to get into talk radio. It's one thing I've never done. So in 1996, after being in television and radio and doing all these things, I got into talk radio at a station in St. Louis. And about a year later, another station in St. Louis heard me, and they said, look, do you want to be the late-night talk show host for us? And I went, yeah, why not? And I went for virtually no money, and I started doing that show. And a year or two later, I get a call from the network, this network, and they said, look, we've heard what you do. We like what you do. Would you like to fill in on Coast to Coast? And I said, absolutely. And that is what started this entire evolution.
And how great is it being the host of Coast to Coast? I mean, with all the reach that you guys have, I mean, all the people you connect with, it's got to be something.
I love it, Michael. I love it every day. When I'm in Los Angeles, I split my time between St. Louis and L.A., but when I'm in L.A., I'm in the office from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 2 in the morning. Monday through Friday. I do the first Sunday of every month. I like it. It's not work for me. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's entertaining, and I just love dealing with the kind of guests that you've dealt with, that I've dealt with, and the open line phone calls. And I pinch myself every day. It was just a great opportunity, and I was in the right place at the right time.
You know, I tell my listeners there's a big puzzle that I'm trying to put together, and one of the reasons I do this is some selfish reasons too. It's because I want answers. I want to know the truth too. So every guest, I get a little piece from each guest that comes on, and I put a puzzle together. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but that's the way I look at it. And you're right. It's a lot of work for somebody if they don't like what they're doing.
It sure is.
Yeah. So how many stations you guys on now? What, 600? Over 600.
We're now at 615, Michael, in North America. That includes Canada, of course. And that keeps growing and growing. And, in an era where everybody says radio's dead, it'll never be the same, we don't see that happening with this program. It continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. When I started in 2003 full-time, we were at 445 stations. We're up to 615 now. That's incredible growth. And I just want to be able to maintain it. There's a lot of different shows have come and gone, and we just keep rolling along. And we've got a great audience. They're into all kinds of technology these days, and we try to keep step with them now, because I take text questions, tweets. We put in Skype. I put in Skype right before the Fukushima disaster, and I was getting calls from Japan. It's just, we're aware of technology, but we're still old-time radio, and I like that mix.
Oh, yeah, it's come such a long ways. I mean, it's so much easier there's so many ways people could get a hold of you now. It's amazing. And not all of them are very, very friendly. That's for sure. So George, what drives you? What do you want most of all out of all that you do? What's that one goal? I mean, some would say the next step is the Radio Hall of Fame. I mean, being the host of Coast to Coast, you've kind of reached the top of the mountain there. So, but what do you want most out of what you do?
I want to be able to make a difference, Michael, for people. My big platform right now is to get our power grid insulated. against an EMP attack or a solar flare. I want to be able to handle issues like that. We have fun on the program, believe me, when we talk about the unusual and the mysteries. But I really want to make an impact on society to protect people, to protect my kids and their kids. And that's my goal. That is what I really want to do, and that's make a difference with this program. We're pretty non-political. We call things the way we see them. I don't endorse Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. He's in now. He's our president, and I say let's support him. He's made some mistakes. The administration has made mistakes, but we got to give them a chance. I mean, they've been in office less than a month, and let's see what happens. But I will be very critical or very positive, depending on things that they do or don't do.
Well, right, and I pulled for Donald Trump. The biggest reason was I just was so afraid of Hillary Clinton getting in there, and that caused me some enemies through this election. There are people. I mean, there's some people who just really. I mean, I've had family members who don't like Donald Trump, and if you say you support him, whew, man, it's not good. But so and with the media now. Since you've started in all of this, the media has changed a whole lot, and the relationship between the media and the people, it's gotten quite shaky to the point where the president uses Twitter, I mean, to reach the people. So, I mean, do you see that relationship being repaired at some point in the future, or do you think it's forever changed?
Well, it can be repaired. I'm not sure his will be repaired, but future candidates and stuff, I think, may learn from this. I think he over-tweets. He needs to be a little more presidential. He's got some great ideas. He's got some other ideas that I'm not supportive of. But by and large, the media has jumped on him for whatever reason, and they just won't let go. And the negativity and the negative kind of reporting, really needs to change. They need to go after the factual stories, and let's worry about tax reform and protecting this country and stuff. I'm not a supporter of the wall, Michael. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to be a waste of money. I would rather we hire more border patrol guards and put them along the border and catch people that way. Yeah. But the media overall right now is just obsessed with what he's doing, and they got to get away from that. They got to start reporting on issues that affect us and stop worrying about the intricacies of what's happening. I mean, this Michael Flynn thing, the guy was going to be the NSA director. He had a right to talk to the Russians or any other country. Why he misled Vice President Pence is another issue, and that was probably a huge blunder on his part. But, I mean, the fact that he talked to the Russians, the media makes it sound like, he was plotting the overthrow of the United States.
Oh, I know.
It's crazy. I mean, he's got every reason. I mean, he could have picked up the phone to talk to the whack job in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, and just say, look, after we're elected, we need to get together and see what we can do. I see nothing wrong with that. But, right now it's like the whole thing was a sinister plot, and it was evil and everything else, and they just won't let it go.
Well, and I think what it is, I think that they were so bent on Hillary winning, they really thought she had this, that, I don't know, it's done something. It's like shocked them.
Everybody generally thought that Hillary would win. There were some people who predicted Donald Trump would win, but he touched a nerve of a lot of people who were just fed up with politicians. They wanted some change, and they got it. I think if he pulls himself back a little bit, and he hasn't been able to do it yet, his popularity should go up a little higher. But let's see what he does. Let's see how he handles himself.
Yeah, and some have compared him to the Antichrist, and and here he is trying to make peace in the Middle East. If he does that, uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
He's
oh, go ahead.
he's not the Antichrist. I mean, you may not like what he's doing with some of the things that he's doing, and he has said a lot of foolish things before he was president and now, but he's far from the Antichrist.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could get much worse than anything we've had. George, what are your thoughts on the human race, big god, little gods, the whole ancient alien prospect? What's extraterrestrial involvement on this planet? What are your actual thoughts? And I've watched Ancient Aliens, and I've heard you on Coast, and but I'd like to hear. What do you think? I mean, I personally, I don't know. I have theories, but I'd like to hear yours. What's
When I was younger, Michael, my mother gave me a book called We Are Not Alone. It was written by the New York Times science writer at the time, Walter Sullivan. And it was about the fact that he believed that in this vast universe, we were not alone, that there were many civilizations like ours teeming throughout the universe on inhabitable planets. At a very young age, I was not only into unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrials, but I was a believer in it too, and that belief has not stopped. I do believe that in the vastness of this universe, that there are other intelligent beings out there that are far older than we are. I mean, we're 4.8 billion years old as a planet in the cosmos. There's another, 9+ billion years jump start for some other planets that had the ability to form before we did. And I believe that they're out there. Have they visited us? If I had to bet money, I would say yes. I think they have. I think they may have seeded us. They may have been involved in our genetic manipulation. I believe in a God. I don't know what God is. I mean, I'm looking for those answers every night when I do the program. But I do believe there are intelligent beings in the universe, all over the universe. Some have come here, and, maybe one day we'll have that official meeting publicly, and everybody can realize once and for all, hey, these things really do exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've recently, after talking to a few guests, especially some guests based on Mars, some of the stuff they've told me about Mars, I got to thinking, when you look at the Bible and you look at Revelations and, all the destruction and stuff that it talks about, I sometimes wonder if you read that book from back to front and you kind of place it on Mars, it's almost like it tells a more accurate story of the destruction of Mars and our arrival here on Earth. And I wonder, I mean, is that crazy to think that way? Do you think there's a connection there?
No, it's not crazy to think that at all. I mean, I have always thought that possibility exists too, that something catastrophic obviously happened to Mars, and if it were an inhabited planet, did they have the kind of technology to get in a craft and come to this planet and start all over again? I mean, that's possible. I don't think you can rule that out. We could very well be the Martians. And it's interesting that Cairo means Mars, and then you look at the pyramids and all that. It's possible. It's possible that the Atlanteans were Martians. I can't rule that out either.
Yeah, it is possible, and you look, I've seen photos, some have showed me photos of what looks like pyramids on the planet Mars, and if that's the case, then, I mean, we have pyramids here on Earth, and I think there's your connection.
It's fascinating to look at it. And what's even more fascinating, Michael, is just to let your mind wander and think of all these different possibilities too. And that's the fun for me of doing Coast to Coast, when you get guests on who have their own thoughts and their own theories about what it is and what it could be, and then you put in your own. That's neat. It's well worth doing.
It is. I mean, it's the greatest job on earth if you like what you're doing, and I don't see how anyone could. If you want answers, doing what you do is exactly where you want to be. I mean, because look at all the people you speak with. I mean, it's you get little hints here and there of what might be. Now, another thing that you discuss a lot of is the paranormal phenomena. And I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about life after death. How real do you think that is? And do you think we'll ever be able to speak with our dear departed without maybe a psychic or something like that, maybe technology, and we'll finally be able to connect?
I wrote a book with Rosemary Ellen Guiley called Talking to the Dead, and it was about the possibilities of doing exactly what you just said, and that is with technology to be able to communicate with the other side, what's out there. I do believe that we exist after we die, that there is something else there. This entire universe is so complicated. To think otherwise, I think, would be a mistake. There's something there. We don't know exactly what it is or how it works or why it functions. Heck, we can't even get a good explanation for the Big Bang and how something started from nothing. But I do believe that when we leave our physical bodies, we go to another plane of existence, call it heaven, call it hell, whatever it might be, and we're there. Now, we may get reincarnated. I think that happens as well. But there's something else out there that is part of this universe. It's not unusual. It's not supernatural. It's very natural. We just don't get it yet. We don't understand how it all works.
I see. I got a question from one of our listeners. Says, has any of your guests really ever shocked you, or have you heard it all?
I've just about heard it all, but I had a guest on years ago. He has passed on since. His name was Benjamin Krem, and he claimed to represent a fellow by the name of the Maitreya that a lot of people felt to be the Antichrist. And when Benjamin was on the program, I started getting emails and messages from people who said, please get him off the air. I'm getting physically sick. I thought it was ludicrous. But the more I talked to the guy, something was strange about him, Michael. I started getting sick on the air. I've never been sick on the air, but it was almost to the point where I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue this program. So I politely ended the interview early, and all of a sudden I felt better, and I got emails from those people who didn't feel good that they were feeling better. There was something weird about that. I would have to categorize him as my strangest interview.
Wow, that's something. Now, I've had guests in the past, especially in the early going, who didn't make me feel too good, but, but I don't know if it's ever gotten that bad, becoming ill, but interesting. So the other side. Now, I've had my own experience with the other side, actually a couple times. The first encounter I had, well, it was wonderful. I mean, but the second one, not so much. So I guess my question is what do you think about evil lurking on the other side? What is it? I mean, is it demonic like some religious folks might call it, or is it just bad people still doing bad things?
Maybe a combination of both, Michael. I do believe evil exists. It's out there. It seems to seek itself throughout all kinds of crevices of human existence. But it's there. Whether it's demonic or it's just human beings who are just evil, I don't know. But evil exists. It's there, and we got to continue to battle it on a regular basis. I've always believed that good wins out in the long run over evil, but there are many times evil wins for the moment, and I think it's there. I think the devil exists. And, there are a lot of people who get possessed or get taken over by some of these demonic forces because they're doing some things that are absolutely horrendous to other human beings, and it just is illogical for me to accept the fact that they were born that way.
Absolutely. George, we've got to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and finish up. So I've done a new project on remote viewing what happened during the Roswell incident. So he thought I should ask you your thoughts on Roswell, so I will.
Something strange happened in 1947, Michael, no doubt about that. And it very well could have been an extraterrestrial. I always go back to when the government released the news that it had a downed saucer. And I mean, and then they rebutted it and changed their mind and their views and stuff. But I just think, you know, and unfortunately most of the witnesses have passed on, but the people that we've talked about over the years or talked to were pretty darn well convincing that some kind of alien craft had crashed, occupants were gotten, and that we had it stored away at Wright-Patterson in Ohio. So I think something like that really did happen. I don't think it was a balloon or a test or anything like that. I think it was much more significant, and I think an alien craft did crash at Roswell back in 47.
And some claim that there was two crashes. Now, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that they kind of held up the real crash with a fake one, or was there actually two crashes?
There could have been two crashes, not too far from each other. I've always wondered, gosh, they had the ability to get here from God knows where. How could they crash here? How could this stuff happen? And some people have theorized that they wanted us to have remnants of the craft to be able to learn it for technology. You know, that's an interesting theory, but for some reason, these craft, once they enter the atmosphere, they have a problem functioning. I think they came from motherships that were much bigger, circling the planet, and then they came down as smaller craft, but something happened to them technologically. I don't know what it was, but you know, some say it was a storm, some say it was radar, who knows, but they crashed. They crashed.
Well, yeah, and somebody had mentioned maybe some type of technology that took them down, and Courtney made a good point that in 1947, you know, how far advanced was technology to take something like that down? Probably not that good, right?
Right. I don't think we had that kind of technology to beam at them or anything else. They either crashed between each other or something happened. They had a malfunction, but I don't think it was us. I don't think we brought it down.
All right. And what's your thoughts on Nibiru? You've done enough shows on that where I feel like you might have a good handle on it. Are you packing up and running to the mountains or what?
I'm gonna wait and let it come to me. But no, not packing up. But I do believe there's an extra planet in the solar system that some call Nibiru. I believe the work of the late Zecharia Sitchin when he wrote about the Anunnaki coming from that planet, coming here to mine for gold because they needed to sprinkle it up in their atmosphere. It's a compelling story, and he's done a great job investigating it. But yes, I do believe there's an extra planet in the solar system. It may very well be inhabited, and the story that was researched by Zecharia Sitchin seems to be, as far as I'm concerned, and even though there have been some people who have shot him down, but to me it seems to be a logical explanation about past civilizations on this planet that may have come from another planetary system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you are aware of this, because I think I heard one of your guests on your show recently in the last week talk about this, where there's two stars are supposed to have collided in deep space, and they say that I don't know, in 2022 we'll see what looks like a new star in an area of our sky that's never been there before, and they claim that it's going to be light coming from this collision. And I wonder if they're not trying to prepare people for what they might see in the sky related to maybe a dwarf star or a planet X or something like that.
That's a possibility. I mean, for some reason, governments don't want to disclose to us an ET presence or just about anything unusual that's happening out there in the universe and out there in space. And in this particular case, I think it would be an amazing scientific discovery to see the light from two stars that collapsed and crashed into each other. But I think amateur astronomers are going to tell us things too. And that, to me, is our saving grace. They're the ones that see these asteroids before, most real astronomers see them. The amateurs do. And they're the ones that are going to tell us, hey, something's going on. We see this extra planet or whatever's happening. We're going to get noticed and notification from them.
Well, that's my thoughts too, and I've had people who've come on this show and told me no, they're silencing all of them, and I just, this planet's pretty big, and there's a lot of amateur astronomers out there, and I just don't see how you could shut them all up. But then they'll tell me, well, some of them are coming out and talking, and you're calling them conspiracy theorists. So, but I don't know. I'm kind of weary about YouTube and Google Images and things like that. And so I'm looking for real solid evidence. And for me, nobody's actually given me solid evidence that I need to worry about it tomorrow or anything. So.
It's going to be a great moment when all these unfold, but it just takes one solid astronomer to get the information out to us. Even if they can muffle everyone else, it just takes that one, and I'm counting on that.
Well, you'll probably be the place where that happens. They'll put.
I could very well be the announcement. Somebody asked me, what would you do if ETs came to you and they wanted you to break the story? I would say, of course, gladly, we'll do it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and that was brought to me before too, and I said, well, what if your family was threatened? I think for me, no matter what, I think it'd be my duty. I'd have to put it out there, no matter what. I don't know.
I would even tell them my family's been threatened. I would go public with something like that. You'd have to, while I hide them, of course.
Well, yeah, and you need to, because I see people all the time. They say, "Oh, I've got this damaging information, but I'll release it on Monday." It's like, no, you better do it now, because you might not be here Monday. What about the flat Earth? Now, I've not covered that one yet. I've had people who've wanted to come on about it. I don't know. I feel like I'm going backwards if I cover that. What's your thoughts on that?
I've covered it. They have some interesting arguments, but I'm convinced that we live on a round planet. I've seen pictures from space. They're not faked. I believe the astronauts that have taken the pictures. This planet and all the other planets in the solar system are shaped the same way. We don't have a flat Earth. Be compelling, be interesting. It looks flat, of course, but it's not. It's round.
All right, and we've got a question here from a listener who wants to know what your thoughts are on our future. I mean, 5 years from now, do you think we'll get that far? What's your thoughts with the way things are going politically and every other way? Does it look good, or does it get worse before it gets better?
I think it's exactly what you just said. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. We're going to win in the long run. I think we're going to be okay, but it's going to be one heck, Michael, of a bumpy road to get there. There was an old German back in 1830s. His name was Stormberger, and he made predictions that were absolutely uncanny. He predicted the automobile. He predicted the railroads. He predicted World War I, World War II, and he does predict a World War III done with weapons. He said that will kill more people in a day than all past wars. And keep in mind,
whoa,
he said this in 1830. Nothing had happened then. And he's predicting a third world war, which is coming up based on his timeline very, very soon.
Wow, yeah, and and you talk to people like that, and it really gets you thinking. I mean, because we do have, technology today that would wipe out, the whole world, I think we could pretty much wipe out with what the weapons we've got. Probably.
If the Russians, the Chinese, and us, if we all launched everything we have all over the place, we'd destroy this planet. We really would, and that's the tragedy of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, someone else asked for your thoughts on geoengineering chemtrails. What are your thoughts on that? You know, I've actually sent a couple letters to the White House, you know, in care of Trump, to see if he seems to, like, he'll tweet about anything. So I thought maybe I'd hit him with that and see if he'd look into it. But I haven't heard nothing back. What's your thoughts on the geoengineering? Do you think?
I do think they're spraying. I think they're spraying weather modification chemicals up there. The Chinese have already admitted they have the ability to do that. I think that's what they're doing. I don't think they're, you know, putting Prozac in the air to dumb us down or anything like that. But I do think they're spraying chemicals to control the weather. And I think that also explains the bizarre behavior of the weather patterns around this country. But that's what I think's happening. They've been doing it for a long time, and they're still going to do it. Whether they're doing it because of warfare or because of droughts, I don't know, but they're doing it.
All right. And, well, now someone wants to know what happened with Richard Hoagland. How come he's not on Coast to Coast anymore? I think
Richard's been a great guest on the program. Years ago, he and I had a bet, and the bet was that would Obama beat Hillary Clinton? And I picked Hillary, and he picked Obama. He won. The deal was I would let him do one show under our auspices. And so he started working on that. We picked a date. He was working on a guest, and he said, well, I want to do the full 4 hours. I said, no, Richard, you're only going to do 3. That's the way it is. This was off mic. On the air, while I was interviewing him for something totally unrelated, he said, you know, my show's coming up, the one that you owe me on the bet. And I said, yep, sure does. And he said, let's poll the Coast listeners whether I should go longer or not, after he and I had already talked about it. And I was just furious, Michael, just furious. But the bottom line is he left after that. He went to do some other show, which I guess he's not doing anymore. I've lost contact with him. Yeah. And then he took off. I mean, he was gone. So that's what happened, and that's where it is.
Yeah, I guess the last I knew, he was over on an internet network, and things didn't work out there either. But I never knew exactly what happened. But apparently he had problems there too. So good luck to Richard. All right, and I think I got one more question here. Well, this one, you might know this guy, Gary the Mad Martian. He wants to know why he's banned from Coast to Coast.
Is he a caller or a guest?
He is a caller. Apparently, he'd call in for Richard Hoagland.
I have no idea. We don't ban anybody. Now, I will say this: that if some people have called in with profanity, we hit the delay, we bounce them off and stuff.
Sure.
But most of those kind of people, Michael, as you know, will call in with a different name, so we have no idea who they are. But I don't recall this guy. I don't know this guy in terms of being banned. So tell him to send me an email at george@coasttocoastam.com and explain why he thinks he's banned, and I'll look into it. george@coasttocoastam.com. And he's got my word. I'll check into it to find out what might have happened. Maybe he was banned during the original regime. That's possible. But as far as I'm concerned, I have no idea.
Well, I know he's called into my show before, and he gets pretty emotional, maybe just a little much. Where producers might say, "Hey, we got to cut the cord on this guy," but I don't know.
Does he get profane, or is he okay as a caller?
Well, it depends who you ask. I think he does. I'm not cursing, but he gets pretty loud.
Yeah, no, that won't get you bounced. Profanity will get you bounced off my show, but if he's out there, definitely send me an email. Tell me when he thinks this ban happened, and I'll start looking into it.
All right, and somebody else here, Peter Kling. He's been on my show before. He just sent me a message. He said, "Who would he email about coming, possibly being a guest on Coast?" He is an expert in the Book of Revelations. I mean,
and I love that subject. He should email Lisa at coasttocoastam.com.
All right. So, and George, I guess here at the end, what I'd like to do is give you the floor to get out anything that you'd like. I thank you for taking time out to be here. I know you've got a show to do tonight yourself. And what do you got?
I'm in the office, Michael, ready to go and do my show. The first couple hours, we're doing our alternative medicine program, of course, and we take a lot of phone calls on that. And then later on, Laird Scranton's joining me to talk about a new discovery in Scotland. So we're going to talk about that. But in terms of things, I've got a new book coming out in June called Mad as Hell that I'd love people to take a look at. And if anybody's in the greater Los Angeles area, I have a live event on May 6th in Northridge, California. You can just go to Ticketmaster.com and type in my name in the search engine. It's a great show. We've got Dr. Bruce Goldberg on past lives, Daniel Brinkley on other lives, Whitley Strieber is going to be with us. It's going to be a great program. That's on May 6th. So other than all of that, folks, if you want to date someone, go to paranormaldate.com.
All right. And George, you said the book is Mad as Hell?
Mad as Hell. Amazon's taking pre-orders already, but it's just about the world that we live in, Michael, and I think people will like it.
All right. Well, listen, I thank you so much, George, for taking time out to be with us. I'll be tuning in tonight. You come on when I go off, so...
All right, my friend. Be well. Anything you need, you let us know.
All right. Thank you, George. Have a great night.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. There he goes, George Noory.
Thank you for listening to the first hour of Late Night in the Midlands. To finish listening to this episode, go to lnmradionetwork.com and become a subscriber. Becoming a subscriber is easy. There is a link on every page to take you to the subscription page. The cost is low, and you would be supporting Late Night in the Midlands and all of our efforts to bring you the truth. Again, go to lnmradionetwork.com, click on the subscribe button, and you can finish listening to this episode as well as all of the other shows that are in our archives.